Greetings from Hopalong Hollow, and happy Thanksgiving to all of you. What a special, special time this is for our country. What I want to show you today is a couple recipes I picked up online myself for pumpkins. And I love pumpkin pie, but this year I wanted to try something a little different. So I found two recipes which involve pumpkin as the main ingredient, but they're a little bit different than pumpkin pie. One of these involves using sugar and some breadcrumbs and some carbohydrate type things, and the other recipe is also involving pumpkins, but it's more like a keto recipe, and it's one of those gluten-free recipe for those of you that can't handle the gluten. So let's start out with this one, which sounds really yummy to me, and I will link below the original YouTube channel that I found the recipe on and give her the credit. This recipe is called Whipped Crumb Pumpkin Pudding, and it's really easy. A really simple recipe with very few ingredients. We're going to be using canned pumpkin, but you can use fresh as well. That's cooked. This is 100% pure pumpkin. I'm going to use 15 ounces of that. I'm going to use 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of very fine breadcrumbs, 2 cups of milk, a dash of salt, 2 eggs, and some spices. And then we're going to need some whipped cream to embellish it. So we're going to start out by simply adding the pumpkin to the bowl. We'll start with our pumpkin. And what a pretty, pretty color that is. Oh, gorgeous orange. Pumpkin orange. I'm going to get every bit of it out of that jar. And we're going to add the sugar. Mix in 1 cup of sugar. For our spices, I'm going to use cloves, cinnamon, and ginger. I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, we're going to use, oh, that's pretty low on the ginger here, a half a teaspoon, or a quarter, we want to use a quarter of a teaspoon of ginger. And a 3/4 of a teaspoon of cloves. When I went to add my ground cloves to the recipe, I found that this was all I had. I need 3/4 of a teaspoon, and that's hardly even enough. So I decided to take my whole cloves and give them a try by grinding them in this antique grinder, which is over 100 years old, and I do grind a lot of things in here for recipes. However, it is still a really coarse, way too coarse to use, even though I've gone through the grinder 3 times with it. I'm going to go ahead and relent and use my electric coffee grinder to get that to a fine ground clove. Well, thank goodness for electricity. Cooking with antique implements can be fun and interesting, but I'll tell you what, we're very lucky that we don't have to do that all the time. We're also going to need a teaspoon of salt, mix them all together, and then we're going to add this to the pumpkin mixture. And really, it's those spices that really make the pumpkin taste come through. I don't know pumpkin that really has that much of a flavor, but it's what you add to it. It's all the spices and extra goodies. Okay. Give that a mix. Next, we're going to take the 2 eggs and we're going to separate the yolk from the white. And we're going to toss in just the yolk. Then we're going to beat that for about 2 minutes. Now we're going to add our 1 cup of breadcrumbs. And we're going to beat it again after we mix it. It's a little grainy, doesn't it? Okay, I'll beat it now. Ready for the milk. 2 cups. I hope I mentioned that you need to preheat your oven to 350. This is going to cook for about 40 to 50 minutes. I switched to a different beater because the other one was really stiff. Okay, this seems to be mixing pretty well. Nice. Alrighty. And we're going to beat the egg whites until they are fluffy. It's really good exercise for your arms. Fairly fluffy. I'd say that's nice fluffy. And that's a good measure. Okay, don't want to turn it into whipping cream. Or meringue, I mean. And we're going to carefully fold this in. And that's really pretty much what you're doing. You are just folding it over and under and over and under until you can see no more egg white. As I said, that it was explained that the purpose of this folding is to keep the air in the mixture, which will make the bread pudding or the pumpkin pudding nice and moist. And this could take a few minutes because you want to get rid of, you don't want to see the white anymore. I think I just saw a piece of clove. I have to pull that out. I don't want anybody to take a bite of it. chunk of a whole clove. Ah, there it is. I see it. Got it. We're getting there. It's kind of meditative. I hope that you've got some sort of a plan for Thanksgiving, and we really don't do much anymore because my family is all quite far away, and we do have one son and his wife here, so we usually have a meal with them, and it's almost always the same thing. A Martha Stewart puff pastry covered turkey, which I've been making since the late 1980s. Cranberries, pumpkin, but the usual fare. Just the traditional Thanksgiving meal. What are you doing? Are you spending your time alone? Are you with friends or family? Are you going out to a meal? I know when I was younger, my father was a chef, I've mentioned that before, and he worked in really great restaurants, and so often on Thanksgiving, we would just go to their buffet, whatever restaurant he was working at, and they were some of the most fabulous buffets, and the only problem with that is you don't have any leftovers when you're done, but we didn't do that every year, but we did do it quite frequently. Okay, I think we're just about there. And everything is ready to go into an ungreased casserole dish. Now, I don't really have the right size casserole dish for this. I might have to pour it into 2 casserole dishes. I'm going to put it in the oven at 350 and bake it for 40 to 50 minutes. There, I think that's ready to go. I guess 1 casserole dish was enough. This next recipe is also very easy, but this is for people who are on either a keto diet or you do gluten-free desserts. So let's give this one a try. I'm looking forward to this one. I'm only going to use this time 1 packet, that's 16 ounces of cream cheese. It's cool. It's been sitting at room temperature for a little while, so it's a little bit soft, which is good. And I'm only going to use, this time I'm going to use a half a can of my pure pumpkin, and I'm going to mix that. I'm going to save the other half of the pure pumpkin for one more recipe in this mix. We're just going to use a half a can of pumpkin here. And then I'm going to mix that together a bit. And I'm going to take that same pumpkin pie mix that I used in the last recipe, and I'm going to mix all those together. We had cloves, ginger, and cinnamon. Mix them all together and just use 1 teaspoon of, or you could just use pumpkin pie mix. So we're going to do 1 teaspoon of the pumpkin pie mix. And we're going to do a half a cup of your favorite sweetener that isn't sugar. So I am using Stevia, cooking Stevia, the kind that you use the same amount as you would sugar. This is a half a cup of Stevia, but that would equal a half a cup of sugar. I'm used to this because I use this in my coffee and my tea all the time. I don't use sugar, and I'm pretty used to the flavor of this. It does have a different flavor if you're not accustomed to it. And then I'm going to also put in a teaspoon of pure vanilla. Before I get this all mixed up, 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla. And then once again, I'm going to be beating this with my little hand beater. Of course, you can always use the modern version, which is what most people will do. Now, I do the antique implements, or the old vintage kitchen equipment. I do that for the videos. I just like that old-fashioned feel of cooking the way my mom cooked. And I'm going to beat that until it's nice and smooth and creamy with my trusty little beater. This is what my mother always had. Can't remember. She finally got a hand beater, a little electric beater, I think, in the 1960s. And mix it all up till it's nice and smooth and creamy. Now it's at this point that you're going to want to taste this, because you want to know if you got it sweet enough, and I definitely added a little more sweetener. And you know what? I also added more pumpkin. I didn't think it had enough of a pumpkin flavor. And then I put in 2 more teaspoons of the pumpkin spice, because I didn't think that it just didn't have enough. Now, if you are not keto, and you're not used to using, for example, Splenda or Stevia, which is what I used, go ahead and use sugar. It's going to make a big difference for you. Now at this point, I'm going to spoon this into some cups or some ramekins, whatever you like. I think I'm going to put it in some really pretty transferware cups, and I'm going to refrigerate it for about an hour. This mixture will fill about 3 teacups. Now we're going to let that refrigerate for about an hour. Actually, it's a really subtle taste. And, oh dear. You're kidding me, Titus. Taking our pumpkin pudding out of the oven, and I've been letting it sit here for about 30 minutes. Now you can just scoop it out, put it on a plate, and put a little whipped cream on it, and you can do something a little more special. This is a little spring pan. Whipped cream on top. Well, I have no idea what this tastes like, but we're going to give it a try. So, and I guess you can eat this hot, warm, or cooled in the fridge. I do like it. I think without that whipped cream, though, it might be a little bland. But it's really moist, just like pumpkin pie. And it is a pudding. You know what? It's really good. I recommend this recipe. I really like this. It's actually my 3rd bite. I keep messing it up. All right, this is the second dessert, and I put some whipped cream on this one as well. This is the cream cheese and pumpkin. This is basically keto keto dessert. So I'm going to give this a taste. This is my third taste, actually. And I like it, but it can't beat pumpkin pie. It simply can't. And you know what? This can't either. If I were to try one, if I would recommend you try one just for the heck of it, just to do something different, I recommend this one. It's just not as rich as pumpkin pie. It doesn't have that really pumpkin-y flavor, and that's what I really like. But this is good. This is good. And this is only good, I think, if you are on a keto diet and you don't get a lot of sugar and you really want something a little bit sweeter. So this is good for keto. This is good just to try it for something different. But really, pumpkin pie is the way to go. So that's my little cooking thing for the day. And I'm sorry I don't have much video this week. I've just been still cleaning that barn. And you know what? It's starting to really come together, and I'm pretty excited about it. So next video, we'll have something a little bit longer. In the meantime, I hope you have a great and wonderful Thanksgiving, whether you're spending it at home reading a book or watching an old movie, just, by yourself or with your mate, or whether you're going to go to some elaborate meal with your family, whatever. Thank you for joining me in Hopalong Hollow, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday. So we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.